Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Dave's Faves, number 155. Holy mackerel. And today, number 155 is a film score. Oh, what a film score. One of my absolute favorites in the whole universe, and probably yours too. It's Elmer Bernstein's The Magnificent Seven. This is so great. I mean, you all know the tune, right? I can't sing it. I'll get a copyright claim. Believe me. Even if you sing it, if you just hum it, if you just think about it, you could get a copyright claim. Probably for holding this up and telling you about it, I'm going to get a copyright claim. But The Magnificent Seven, as we all know, was the 1960 remake of Kurosawa's The Seven Samurai, which was billed in the United States as The Magnificent Seven, which had come out about 4 or 5 years earlier, and they did it as a Western. You know, it had what a cast it had. It had Yul Brynner and Robert Vaughn and Eli Wallach and I think Robert Conrad and Steve McQueen. It had like everybody, everyone who had ever ridden a horse. And so it was just a phenomenal movie, and this phenomenal movie was given an equally phenomenal score. And the score, it has that instantly identifiable American Western quality, which was really invented by Copland. You know, Copland, which I think is fascinating, because Copland, as we all know, was a gay Jewish kid from Brooklyn. But he invented the sound of the American West somehow, through just a miracle of musical genius and imagination, and he came up with this iconic timbral universe, which Hollywood composers immediately seized upon. It's rather funny in the notes to this, not to this release necessarily. I was reading, but they talked about how Bernstein quoted Bartók's Concerto for Orchestra in places, and maybe he did. I don't know. I mean, but Copland, that's the guy. I mean, Copland wrote his own Western stuff. He wrote The Red Pony. He wrote The Tender Land. And, there's, of course, Rodeo and Appalachian Spring and Billy the Kid. And all of that stuff created an absolutely iconic American sound. It doesn't get, I think, the credit it deserves in musical circles because, of course, it's not something that you talk about in terms specifically of harmonic theory or some other abstruse system. It wasn't a system. It was a sound. It was a way of writing for instruments, a way of spacing chords, and you knew it. You knew it when you heard it. It was like what Potter Stewart said about pornography. I may not be able to define it, but I know it when I see it. And this is the same thing. That amazing American sound was immediately soaked up by the film industry, the composers who wrote for it, and not just Elmer Bernstein. There was Dmitri Tiomkin, for example, who used it, and Alfred Newman. And, all these people started to write pieces in that style for their westerns simply because the music fit the visual imagery so perfectly. I mean, it's stunning how visually accurate Copland was when he came up with this populist Western style. And of course it's derided also because it's populist, because people like it, because it's accurate, because it sells the goods, because it does what it promises to, completely without affectation or any kind of inhibition or what's the word, any sort of deception, or it just is. It's the West. And of all the film scores that capture that mood, I think Bernstein's The Magnificent Seven is probably the one that does it the best. And there have been several recordings of it. Now, this one, which I simply adore, is Elmer Bernstein himself conducting the Royal Scottish National Orchestra. He conducted the original soundtrack, and the original soundtrack has been issued, but as usual with these things, the original soundtrack stuff, there was one that was in mono, and I don't know if it's in stereo. I don't have the original soundtrack because it was recorded in 1960, and this thing came out in glamorous digital sound conducted by Bernstein, so who cares? So, of course, this is out of print. Naturally, it vanished into nothingness. It was on RCA originally. Why it's still not available? It shouldn't always be available. I don't know. It should be popular. But there is, for some reason, even though Koch or Koch in English records no longer seems to exist, there is the Phoenix Symphony version with James Sedaris on Koch. That's still around, and it's fabulous. It's just as good as this. It's very, very good and very well recorded, and that you can probably get. And there are various incarnations of the original soundtrack recording. So those are all available too. One way or another, this is just an extraordinary achievement in the history of film music. You know, the Motion Picture Academy, or whoever, the American Film Institute, I think it is, ranked this number 8, I think it was, in the top 25 American film scores of all time or something. There is a list. You can go look at it. It's kind of interesting. But wow. I mean, I just play this all the time. It is so wonderful, and it's great. It's great road music too. If you're like starting off on a journey in your car or on your horse, whichever, plonk this on and let it whoosh you off on your way. Let it, get you started. It's for the long haul. Totally phenomenal. A work of musical genius by Elmer Bernstein, the other Bernstein. Or for those who love film music, Leonard was the other Bernstein. But it's just great. Absolutely great. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.